Hello, my dear students. Good morning. I welcome you to the online classes. In my previous class, I had explained you regarding the Asian Development Bank. Today we will have a discussion on the topic of Asian financial crisis. So, before understanding the Asian financial crisis, let us understand what is financial crisis. It is a situation where the asset prices see steep decline in the value of the assets, and here the businessmen and consumers feel that they are unable to pay back their own debts, and also financial institutions experience liquidity shortage. A financial crisis is often associated with a panic and a bank run, during which investors sell off assets or withdraw money from the savings account because they fear that the value of those assets will be declined. So, in this situation, the investors or the customers of the bank, they feel that their assets, which they deposited in the bank, their values might be reduced in the future days. So, most of them are trying to withdraw their amount or get back their assets from the bank. So, during that situation, banks will have the shortage of liquidity. It is the situation of financial crisis. So let us understand the history of the Asian financial crisis. The Asian financial crisis was happened in 1997. So the crisis started especially in Thailand on July 2nd of 1997 with the financial collapse of the Thai baht. After Thai government was forced to float baht due to lack of foreign currency to support its currency pegged to US dollar. So it was started in Thailand, and at the time of 1997, the Thailand acquired a burden of foreign debt that made the country effectively bankrupt even before the collapse of its currency. As the crisis spread, most of the East Asia and Japan saw slumping currencies, devalued stock markets, and other assets prices, and receipts rise in the private debt. So, the Asian financial crisis was most affected in the nations of Thailand, Indonesia, and South Korea. These are the three nations where the Asian financial crisis badly affected. Then the less affected nations by the Asian financial crisis are Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, Malaysia, Brunei, and the Philippines. These are the less affected nations by the Asian financial crisis. Let us understand what are the causes and what made to have a financial crisis in the Asian continent. The first and foremost cause for the Asian financial crisis is foreign debt to GDP ratio rose from 100 to 167%. The four large Asian economies in 1993-96, foreign companies were attracting capital inflows from the developed world. Investors in the West were seeking better assets of return, and the Asian economic miracle seemed to offer better rates of the return than lower growth economies in the West. The second cause for the Asian financial crisis is current account deficit. In short form, it is called as CAD. How CAD happens? In fact, the current account is one of the components of the balance of payment. So, how deficit happens in the current account? So, usually deficit happens in the current account when import is higher than the export. I mean, when inflow is higher than the outflow, it is called as current account deficit. Inflow means when one nation currency flows into other nation's currency, it is an inflow. When usually nation currency flows into other nation's currency, because when we have more import from the other nations, so there will be a high flow. But when we have more export from one country to another country, the inflow will be high to the exporting country. So usually the CAD happens because of high import. Then fixed and semi-fixed exchange rates in the Asian continent is also one of the reasons. This made currency too vulnerable of speculation. Also, interest rates were used to maintain the value of a nation currency, causing relatively high interest rates in Southeast Asia, which caused hot money to flow. Then the next cause of the Asian financial crisis is financial deregulation. Encouraged more loans and helped to create asset bubbles, but the regulatory framework and structure of banking and firms meant loans were often made without sufficient scrutiny of the probability rates. The next cause is debt default. In the run up of the crisis in 1997, both the government and the private firms built up high external debt ratios. However, the devaluations caused debt repayment to become more expensive, and as a result, firms and countries started to default on their debt repayment. So, these are the causes for the Asian financial crisis, which was happened in 1997. So, when the Asian financial crisis was happened, what were the solutions or decisions were taken by IMF, or in another word, what is the assistance of International Monetary Fund in order to stabilize the nation's currency in the Asian countries? So, although most of the governments of Asia had seemingly sound fiscal policies, the International Monetary Fund stepped in to initiate a $40 billion program to stabilize the currency of the South Korea, Thailand, and Indonesia economies, particularly hard hit by the crisis. The economic reforms by the IMF during the Asian financial crisis. The International Monetary Fund support was conditional on a series of economic reforms, and in fact the IMF had initiated a program. It is called as SAP, Structural Adjustment Package. SAP's called on crisis struck nations to reduce the government burden. In fact, this SAP is intended to assist the most badly affected nations by the Asian financial crisis. The reasoning was that these steps would restore confidence in the nation's fiscal solvents, penalize insolvent companies, and protect currency values. Above all, it was stipulated that the IMF capital had to be administered rationally in the future, with no favored parties receiving funds by preference. In at least one of the affected countries, the restrictions on foreign ownership were greatly reduced. IMF and high interest rates. The conventional high interest rate economic wisdom is normally employed by monetary authority to attain the chain objectives of tightened money supply, discouraged currency speculation, stabilized exchange rate, curbed currency depreciation, and ultimately contained inflation. So these are the steps were taken by International Monetary Fund in 1997 in order to reduce the crisis in the Asian nation. So, but it was not affected India because especially Article 360 refers the financial emergency in our constitution. If the president feels that the financial situation is worsening in the nation, he may impose the Article 360. So, and when the Article 360 is imposed in the nation, so usually the government has the right to take back the salary of almost all the government employees. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you get any doubt, kindly ask me.